Hello, it's Friday, August 29th. Welcome to another episode of the Mituye News. As usual, if you haven't gotten a chance to subscribe to the Substack, please do so. The link is in the description. That is really the heart of this endeavor. That's where we get all the stories we cover on the video episodes from. That really is the driving force behind our efforts here at Mituye. So if you haven't yet, check that out. Today we'll start in Indonesia. We'll start out east. There's some protests happening in Indonesia. Let's take a look. Protests spread across Indonesia after a deadly clash with police. Okay, what's going on? Demonstrations spread across Indonesia on Friday today as thousands took to the streets of its capital, Jakarta. Oh, I'm saying that right. And other cities a day after a motorcycle taxi driver was killed at a protest. The demonstrations, which began on Monday in Jakarta, have been driven by rising unemployment and inflation, with many calling for an end to housing allowances for lawmakers that they see as lavish. On Friday, police officers in riot gear fired tear gas at protesters in the capital, and the Navy Marine Corps deployed troops to secure the demonstrations. So there's some frustration, there's some tension building up in Indonesia, and it seems to have tipped over. Flashpoint, bang, due to a taxi cab driver getting killed by police. The president has responded, right? He's responded by launching an investigation, condemning the behavior. I think the police officers are in jail for a month or so as they conduct the investigation. So he, I'm shocked. He came out as appalled by the behavior of the police. So, and he's calling for calm because things, as we can see, tear gas, riots, thousands of people protesting at the Capitol. This speaks to a tinderbox, a powder keg, a situation that, if left unchecked, could get out of hand. So he's come across as like, let's calm this down. I'm going to look at the behavior of the police. He's in his first year in office. So this is a big test for him. This is a time of uncertainty, a time of unrest. The lawmakers have gotten $3,000 a month for housing stipends, and there's like significant economic inequality in Indonesia. So I imagine what's happening. I'm not Indonesian. I haven't been to Indonesia, but I can extrapolate just from being a human being. A lot of poor people are looking and going, $3,000 a month out my face, man. And then, protests begins becoming more intense. They feel like they're not being heard. The police are aggressive because policing, especially of the poor, tends to be excessive, heavy-handed. The police pushing you around, you're not going for it, this type of thing. Then a taxi cab driver gets killed. Boom. You know what? We really not going for it. Let's go down to the Capitol and demonstrate to the politicians exactly what we mean. That this isn't idle, kind of political conjecture. Like these are demands. And these are real condemnations of what you got going on in terms of these lavish lifestyles of the politicians. Like, we're not about to have the kind of the ruling class lord over us from their place of privilege while we struggle to find enough money to get basic necessities, rice and beans. That's can't go for that. So that's what I imagine is going on. We'll see how all of this unfolds. It's causing some initial shock in the economy. They say that there's a 1.5% drop in the stock index, and a 0.8% weakening of the rupiah against the dollar. So I think other people are looking and going, oh, that's not some overnight protest, right? This isn't like a little bit of kerfuffle downtown. Like, this is real structural problems, and we're unsure that you'll be able to sustain an efficient economy if all of this unrest goes unaccounted for, and it might not be easily accounted for. So that's what's going on in Indonesia. There's protests. They're growing in strength. The president, relatively new, calling for calm. We'll see how all of this resolves itself. We got a 21-year-old taxi cab driver. Well, I'm saying taxi cab. That's my not bias, but background leading into this. He was riding a motorcycle cab driver. He gets killed. He's 21, so that's a young man. So that would be that can young people getting killed by police, that can be a flashpoint that can change everything. So if they continue to rally behind this frustration or rally behind this concern, and the frustration continues to boil over, we will continue to see repression, military forces coming out, lay it down, right? Tear gas, things pointed at you. Sir, get on the ground. We would like you to calm down. Come with me. We'll see a lot of that. And if people continue to be like, yeah, well, for every one of me, there's 20 people behind me. How many times can the military put this down? So we'll see how this all plays out. Hopefully there's some resolution. Perhaps they don't provide the lawmakers with such extravagant funds. Maybe that'll help bringing that back into reason. I've long been an advocate, we over here have long been advocates of reining in the kind of professional class of lawmaking. Like, I think it can't be of the sort that it's thought of as more than a service job, right? It's going to be a passion, so to speak. And you have to reflect. We need representatives, leadership to reflect the lifestyles, the commitments, the values of the people, their constituents, the people that they claim to represent. So it's very hard for me to imagine. It's not impossible. I mean, it can happen. But it's harder for me to imagine someone that is, I don't know, making 8 times my salary, being able to represent my interest or even understand what those might be and what my frustrations might be. So anyway, we'll see what's going on. That's what's happening in Indonesia, my bad. Deadly clashes, unrest, and frustration going on. So we'll take a look at our next story. We'll move a level down to some domestic politics. We got Trump again. So the president is doing some interesting things. Trump blocks $4.9 billion in foreign aid Congress already okayed, using a maneuver that was last seen 50 years ago in the 70s when the Afros was out. Man, that was the last time we saw this maneuver. So this is relatively, I won't call it novel because it's not novel, but it's relatively unheard of. It's been a while since a president tried this maneuver. What we got going on? President Donald Trump has told House Speaker Mike Johnson that he won't be spending $4.9 billion in congressionally approved foreign aid, effectively cutting the budget without going through the legislative branch. Trump, who sent a letter to Johnson, who's a Republican out of Louisiana, on Thursday, is using what's known as a pocket recession. When a president submits a request to Congress to not spend approved funds toward the end of the fiscal year, so Congress cannot act on the request in a 45-day time frame, and the money goes unspent as a result. It's the first time in nearly 50 years a president has used one. The fiscal year draws to a close at the end of September. So the president found out. I imagine, like, when I think of Trump, I don't think of necessarily like a kind of a government science genius, as we might think of like Mitch McConnell or Chuck Schumer or Nancy Pelosi. These people that really have a grasp on the way the federal government is structured and can use that knowledge to implement a vision, right? Like that they really understand how the game is played. They're technicians, as it were. Trump just doesn't strike me as that type of political actor, but I bet he found out. And I bet he sets up a team that makes him aware of every tool he can deploy to advance his interests. So what he probably sets out is an agenda. Like, I'm not spending this money, so somebody tell me how I cannot spend it. And then a bunch of people run around, they look at the books, the government scientists, so to speak. They look at the books and they go, well, man, this thing is a pocket recession, right? We could force the government the Congress not to spend the money, and then you don't have to spend it, right? Like we can go around them in kind of a jujitsu wax on, wax off type of fashion and not have it spent anyway. So we can shut it down without going through them. We can go around them and block them off kind of at the pass, right? So that's what's going on. In terms of my commentary or my sensation, I'm with shutting it down. So however people, I get it. It's so many people, they hate Trump and everything Trump does is bad and so on. I think I'll call it an industry, maybe a complex, this kind of foreign aid apparatus has long been a tool of U.S. imperialism. And so as an anti-imperialist, if I'm correct in that assessment, I would like to see an end brought about to this type of arrangement in terms of the global economic structure. So this tool of keeping people under the thumb and unable to build sustainable political, legal, economic structures due to the kind of constant flooding of aid and requirements around aid. I would like to see that stop. I'm an advocate. I think I borrowed the language, but I think I do like the approach of the multipolar world in which we don't have this obligation. We're not the sole, domineering power throughout the world. And if no one eats, it's our fault as Americans. So, we have to have this kind of robust industry to ensure people get substance. It's counterintuitive to me. It doesn't make much sense. So it looks to me, it looks to me like a racket, frankly. So I'm happy to see the outcome here. Can the president, so like at the kind of theory level or the actual, the apparatus of the government, is this okay? Trump is provoking all of the interesting questions. Can a president do this? We saw this recently with the firing of Lisa Cook from the board of the Federal Reserve, from being one of the governors. Like, can the president do this? And it's unclear. So the courts, I'm sure, the courts will have to figure this out. There's some legal professors and other experts suggesting, like, no, we can't do that. It's undermining what is clear, that the Congress has the power of the purse, right? That they control the flow of money. And Trump here is clearly trying to assert that he can implement some shifts in the flow of money, right? He's saying the country is not spending this money, says me, and I can do that through this useful tool. I can ask you not to do it. I can say there's a pocket recession and don't spend the money by the end of the fiscal year because it's too close, and that's at the end of September. So you can't spend the money either way. But we'll find out in short order. I think they're going to have to come to some type of conclusion relatively quickly, because if this maneuver holds, then there won't be the money spent. The nearly $5 billion will be cut off. So that's interesting. We'll see. They're trying to shut down USAID anyway. Or at least they have effectively. So they're in the final stages. That's kind of in its death throes. I don't know. I personally, we here we're critics of the kind of foreign aid complex, as it were. But that's what's going on. Trump and Congress are fighting about foreign aid. We'll see who wins in that battle. Right now, I'm inclined to believe, given the amount of chaos, given the amount of flooding of issues to deal with, that this will probably stay in. So that's my prediction, speculation. But I thought it was worth noting. Of note in the news as well is that Trump, he declared, I don't know what the right word is. I didn't really look into it. But he revoked Kamala Harris's her security detail, Secret Service. And people are quite concerned about that. It was also interesting to me in terms of the discourse. It appears President Biden had extended her security detail in an unusual way that was unannounced at the very end of his tenure. So that all struck me as odd. So before I speak on it, I would like to look into it more. But yeah, this is probably, at least I came to the conclusion that this was worth noting. That, like, yeah, there's this fight going on between the president and Congress about foreign aid funding. And he doesn't want to have to go through Congress because he doesn't think they'll do the right thing according to him. He doesn't think this money should be spent. I also don't think this money should be spent, but he is going around. I make opinions on the internet. He is the president of the United States. So our opinions have different weight behind them. And here he's attempting to go around Congress with this kind of novel maneuver that hasn't been used in 50 years to ensure that he doesn't have to spend the money and they won't be able to make the money be spent by the end of the fiscal year, which comes about at the end of September. So that's what's going on. Of note, we'll go down a level and let's see what we got going on. Oh, California. See, Governor Gavin Newsom deploying law enforcement across California to fight crime. Interesting, including the Bay. So he is sending troops, not troops, officers, I'll call them, law enforcement, from the state to these smaller bodies. What's going on? Governor Gavin Newsom is expanding the state's law enforcement presence across California to crack down on crime. Cracking down on crime. Newsom announced Thursday that more crime suppression California Highway Patrol teams will head to 6 regions across the state, including the Bay Area. Among the Bay Area cities, San Francisco and Oakland are included in the plan. Newsom says this will build upon the massive effort that's already underway around the state. All right. So what's interesting to me about this is that crime, one, is dominating. It's like dominating the discourse right now, right? Like that, like crime is the discussion du jour, right? It's like, I don't even know if I said that right. It's the discussion of the day. It is on everyone's mind, from Montgomery, Alabama, to DC, to the feds, to California. I live in Indiana, in Indianapolis, the governor and the mayor fighting about crime. What are we gonna do about crime? So my biggest takeaway here is there a crime problem or is there not? So like this partisan based mixed messaging is driving me insane. It seems that those aligned with the Democratic Party want to deny that there is an issue of crime or that the issue is being appropriately handled. But this indicates to me there is an issue of crime. Gavin Newsom is aware of it. He's sending help to Oakland, to LA, to San Francisco to deal with the crime. So there is a problem. So the problem is that they don't want the federal government to aid them. That seems odd. That to me signals political grandstanding. That like, okay, you recognize there's a problem. You just want to be the one to solve it, or you don't want, I don't know, you don't want Trump to intervene in any type of meaningful way. The mayor in DC today was like, or yesterday, very recently, was like, oh no, it's totally drove down crime. She's like, this can be replicated. She's nervous that it's making people too anxious. But like, in terms of the crime elements, like I think they said something. There hasn't been a murder in 7 days, 10 days. Carjackings are down 87%. It's working, right? Okay, so if there's a crime problem and the feds come in and then there's no crime, this seems like a solution. Problems. It's not sustainable. No one likes the presence of military in the streets because it makes cities feel occupied. So there's a crime problem. The feds can't quite fix it because that's not a sustainable policing practice. We can't have the National Guard policing local, doing the job of local police, because it's going to create a series of kind of conundrums. Expense, like how are we going to afford all of this? Sense of like place and autonomy and normalcy. Like if there's troops in the like subway, for instance, that's going to make things feel not normal. It's not a normal Thursday afternoon, right? The National Guard there. But that's what struck me is people like Gavin Newsom. I feel like they're talking out of two sides of their neck. So like it's like, yeah, there's no problem. Trump's making it up. There is no crime problem. He's just picking on blue states. Also, I'm sending our resources to fight crime because there's a crime problem. Okay, this is not. I need help. I need help in that regard. The most interesting question to me is what are we going to do about the crime situation in the country? So if there is a problem, so let me say that. Like I think we're circling around a truth that there is a problem. Something is going on with crime that is not being solved properly, especially at the city level. The cities don't know how to fix it. LA doesn't know how to fix it. Chicago don't know how to fix it. Memphis don't know how to fix it. Houston don't know how to fix it. Go on and on and on. So there's a problem and there's a lack of solutions. What are the solutions? Because like Mayor Johnson in Chicago, nonsense. Like every time I hear him discuss how he's fixing it or what he means, he leans on percentage increases or decreases, which obfuscates the nature of the problem. And two, the solutions are always like spend more money. We need more money. I'm skeptical. I don't know if that is in and of itself the solution. I don't think everyone is so fiscally constrained that crime is ballooning. It seems like it requires more than just a bigger balance sheet, or or more investment. But whatever, I'm open. Please let me know if you know how to solve the problems. Is it different in every city? Is it different to tackle the crime in Memphis than it is in DC, than it is in Gary, Indiana, than it is in Oakland? And do all of these things need distinct solutions? And if so, what are those? Or do all of the big cities need one solution? And whatever. That's what's interesting to me. Let me get back to the story, though. Gavin Newsom is going to go ahead and put those forces, those law enforcement operatives in the local cities. He says that the operations will be data driven and unannounced. So they popping out. I used to like a lot of Young Jeezy songs, right? They popping out the Red Dogs, they popping out of vans, right? They're thinking about things like fentanyl trafficking, armed robbery. Or quasi-organized crime or organized crime. The type of crime that makes people uncomfortable, scared to go outside. That seems to be what they're targeting. So I hope they're successful. Crime has got to be driven down. I don't think, as someone that doesn't have kind of a perfectionist view of society, there'll be a crimeless time. If there's free people, there's going to be criminal activity. And so crime is not good, but a necessary component of a free society. People are going to make bad decisions. Okay, cool. So there'll be some crime. What's going on is out of hand. I don't like the percentage language, because I think so if 150 people get murdered and then next year it's 132, it's like, oh, well, on a percentage basis, crime has dropped dramatically. And I'm like, 132 people just got shot outside. What are you like? This is a little more urgent than the percentage decrease reflects. Like, this isn't ticket sales. This is violent crime. So I see a problem. I feel a problem. I have to travel a lot. So I'm in cities. I'm in Philly. I'm in Chicago. I'm in Jackson, Mississippi. I'm in it's like real outside. Let Alan tell it from walking around. It's like, okay, cool. And I'm pretty low key. So I just move around the city, I'm just hanging out. And you could feel it. You could feel the tension. You could see it, So I see a problem. I hope this works to solve it. I hope people become more cooperative and less partisan in their approach to solving this problem. But this was going on. Gavin Newsom, who I really, maybe I'm biased here. This guy, piece of work, man. But Gavin Newsom is the governor of California, and so I'll just say that the governor of California is using law enforcement resources to tackle crime throughout the state. Hopefully he is successful in that cause. All right, we got our final story of the day. Let's see what we got going on. Portland City Council sends minimum wage hike to voters. Oh, I think I turned on the Apple, whatever it is, smart. Apple Intelligence is what it is. Let me start over. Portland City Council sends a minimum wage hike to voters. What's going on in Portland? Portland's minimum wage could soon be on the rise. On Monday night, the city council voted to send this proposal to the November ballot for Portland residents to decide. The proposal originally would increase the minimum wage to $20 an hour, but that was amended on Monday night's city council meeting to only reach $19 an hour. Many businesses in the city are against the increase. They say they could have to lay off staff, provide fewer benefits to workers, or move their businesses out of Portland. Okay, the classic tension. Workers say, we want more pay. The business owners say, I give you more pay. I'm shutting his down. What you mean? Okay, there is no more pay. There's no more money to be spread around. I don't have any more funds to give you. I'm not holding out on you. I don't have it. But it's interesting to see the direction here. Okay, we have clearly a economic crisis. Wages have stagnated. Prices have inflated dramatically over time. People can't afford things. This is a problem. If people work, they have to be able to live, period. We need an economic system that facilitates that, period. Okay, cool. This is all good and well. how do we go about doing it? We can keep chasing prices with wages, but that could, in the end, make the problem worse. So I don't know if that's a sustainable solution. Like, we can't just keep inventing money, so to speak. Like, we can't just, well, now there's just more money. Now, because the prices will just continue to outpace the wages. Like, that's not going to track it down. So something else has to happen. I think another interesting angle here is that, like, the direct democracy angle of wages or minimum wages is interesting to me. It made me think as I was writing the newsletter. I was like, I'm not sure this is the type of decision that wouldn't be better served by representative bodies. I don't imagine a world in which the populace, like the people, democratic functions, wouldn't always vote to increase their wages. Like, this seems like So if we ask the people, do you want more chocolate? They're going to be, of course, every time they're going to vote to increase their wages. But the business owners, who also need to be kind of thought of and represented here, definitely couldn't get a plurality, but are saying, like, if we get higher wages, like, you're going to stagnate the growth, the economy of the city. We're definitely not going to be able to grow businesses. We might shrink and we might leave. Like, we might just no longer be able to conduct business in Portland. So this seems to me to be, like, not necessarily an issue that's right for the wisdom of the crowd, but the wisdom of the elite, or the wisdom of those the crowd has selected to think through difficult issues like this. So I feel like the city council kind of punting. But I get it. I also, at the same time, it's like, okay, direct democracy, put it in. What do the people of Portland want? And I just can't imagine a world in which the plurality of the people don't vote for a higher minimum wage. And what makes me nervous about that is, like, well, the outcomes of simply handing things over to the plurality. And this is why we have, if I myself am a political philosopher. If you look through political philosophy, you're going to hear all of these, critics of democracy, not because they hate, they love authoritarianism and totalitarianism and fascism or something, but because they're concerned about the consequences of democracy. Like, democracy isn't perfect. It's not good in and of itself. It allows for something, right? In my own embrace of political philosophy, I think it allows for popular sovereignty. So democracy isn't the end, it's a means to exercise or to demonstrate that the people are sovereign. But here nor the less, here nor there. This isn't a philosophical argument. This is a news show, and something's going on in Portland. Portland is about to give the people the chance to determine whether or not they should have a higher minimum wage than they do. Should it be $15 an hour? Should it be $19 an hour? They're going to raise it. If it goes through, they'll raise it slowly over time. So that, in good faith, I should mention that like, yeah, it's not going to be like, and tomorrow, now pay your workers $3-4 more an hour. It's going to be like, okay, 17, next year 18, next year 19. And it should allow the local economy time to adjust is the idea. But yeah, we'll see what happens. That's what's going on in Portland. Shout out to the good people of Portland. Hopefully this at least gives some type of resolution to the idea that, like, some people want a higher minimum wage. Hopefully through this process here, they can at least come to some type of conclusion. Is that going to happen or is it not? That's it for me. I will see you all next week. I'll remind you again, the purpose of this news show is to make American citizens harder to conquer through making them more aware of what's going on around them. We think having that type of knowledge will empower you. So I'm trying to facilitate the discussion. I'm not trying to tell you what to think. My opinions are just my own. I do hope you respond, though. I'm trying to provoke discussion. Good faith discussion. I don't mean to be heavy-handed. I'm just trying to share an opinion. Respond. What say you? And this is the situation. We need to think about what it means for minimum wages to be given over to votes. What should they be? What should they be in a city like Portland? But anyway, I'll see y'all next week. Y'all have a good weekend. Stay out of trouble, man. Bye.